The rooftop rail he swore was off limits. The calendar square arrived at 6:11 p.m., neat as a door badge. Civic Arts Gala, Meridian Museum, late. 2 minutes later, Kai texted, "Don't wait up. Facilities asked me to check a wind sensor on the roof rail after speeches. Proud of me." Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence wants diplomatic immunity. I turned the pasta down to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked across the district at the museum's glass prow. The roofline sliced the dusk like a practice compliment. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:27, a number I didn't recognize sent a message that recognized me anyway. If the gala, on the mezzanine, why did he just badge the penthouse lift and take the roof stair? Service door by the freight dock. Reader hates witnesses, cover it and lean. I can hold sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, J, as if the alphabet had leaned on a ladder cage and promised not to squeal. Jax runs nights above the glass with the patience of someone who has taught wind to keep confidences. He and Kai trade competence in a dialect of locks and leniencies. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes by the intake fans, and once a laugh sharp enough to make a dome camera blink like glass wanted to blush. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because off limits is keep out the way champagne is hydration. The service stair smelled like wet aluminum practicing candor. I palmed the reader's sulking eye and leaned. The lock remembered mercy and yielded. The roof had kept the day's heat the way skin keeps a memory it isn't sure it consented to. The rail coiled along the edge, stainless and certain, a boundary line written in money. He was where Jack said he'd be. At the northeast corner, jacket off, shirt open 1 button past credible, tie rolled into his pocket like a plausible denial. Opposite him leaned Marcus Vale, developer, board vice chair, roomer with a patio and a god complex, 2 fingers resting on the rail as if steel owed him interest. The other hovered near Kai's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys skyline and invoices discretion. "Off limits looks conversational," I said. Kai turned. For a beat the truth used his face like glass before it reflects. Then the public version arrived, posture, breath, the tone you forge for rooms that clap for themselves. "Reese," he said. How did?" "Jax likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Marcus smiled in the register of benefaction. "We were reviewing wind load," he said. "Patrons delight in feeling the city carry its own weight." "I prefer weight that doesn't need an audience," I said. Kai took 1 step toward me and let the roof keep the second. "We were listening for a rattle in the anchors," he said. He wanted to hear the air without speeches. "Sound is persuasive," Marcus said, opening both hands like tasteful parentheses. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual, my driver is patient." He drifted toward the lightning rod and studied his reflection in stainless like a man who expects metal to admire him back. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Kai's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. Kai watched me the way men watch weather when they hope thunder has found another address. "I was going to text you," he said, lower now, in the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. "After. I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it rename me." "You wanted to be caught," I said. "Not punished, caught." He let 1 breath out, and the rail decided not to hum about it. There is a height at which grammar resigns. I stepped into his space and put my mouth on his because glass lies and mouths shouldn't. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly by applause and posture. He tasted like gala bourbon, and the clean ache of air a building has paid to keep. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. The roof charges extra and cameras learn quickly. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He put his forehead to mine. Somewhere, a damper clicked in a key that wanted to be tactful. "I didn't kiss him," he said. "I wanted to want to. I texted Jax." "You did," I said. "He prefers oxygen to salvage." Marcus tilted his head the way men do when they mistake elevation for consent. He didn't approach. The skyline remembered not to applaud. "Come home," Kai said. "After I thank the person who hears doors," I said. Jax waited where the parapet gives itself back to the stairwell, lanyard looped over 2 fingers, the patience of a man who teaches roofs to forgive footprints. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. "Sweep hits the rail in 90, he said. "If you don't want to explain your lives to a flashlight that knows your shoes, take the east hatch, cut behind the chiller, out by the service lift. The alley cam believes every bin is a bin." "You sent the message," I said. "I opened a door," he said. "You two remembered how to walk." The chiller breathed like a polite beast. The alley smelled like rain and discretion. We chose sidewalks over lobbies because lobbies write captions. At home, the pasta forgave me for mistaking patience for character. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Marcus had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Jax had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Jax and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't say how a green exit sign turns Jax's mouth into punctuation that finally understands itself. We didn't fight. There wasn't theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its breath. The city rehearsed forgetting our names, and we let it. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this town is the kink we can afford. Kai tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain continuity to a breakfast that confuses height with virtue. At 9:16 a text arrived from a number saved as one letter. No roof cam saw anything but sky. I looped a damper test for 20. Consider it training. "Jay, I sent, you're very proud of your training." He replied, "I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct." By noon, a culture blog posted Marcus haloed in champagne against a photo of the museum roof, captioned with stewardship and skyline. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:22, Kai sent a picture of our kitchen plant basking in a dutiful square of sun. "Room exists," he wrote. The week pretended to be a program you could trust. Marcus sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Kai read until the commas behaved like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for 7 clean counts. The air remembered its job. 2 nights later, the museum hosted Night Above the City, honest wristbands, real families, children learning that railings are kindness wearing steel. We went together. because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Jax nodded once from a shadow like an usher allergic to applause. Marcus shook Kai's hand while a photographer tried to make glass confess. A reporter asked about legacy. Kai pointed to a maintenance tech kneeling to show a boy how to torque a bracket without scolding and said, "Legacy is what keeps rooms gentle." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the walk home, we cut along the tram line where Sparks rehearsed patience. Kai slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the knight did the decent thing and looked away. We burned the bread and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still from a roof cam, 2 silhouettes at the edge, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and billed by the breath. I set my phone face down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Kai texted a different image. The service lift at noon, Jax showing a teen volunteer how to listen to a bearing with a wrench while a wind plot confessed contentment. "Our version works for a living," he wrote. Sunday arrived with rain that had learned everyone's names. Jax texted, "Roof is quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat?" We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which sensor lies first, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the tiny change in pitch that means the steel wants kindness. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think altitude is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. Midweek, the foundation staged a press moment to announce scholarships for structural apprentices. Kai spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Marcus promised to help the city meet its hours on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Kai's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. "You're both very good at exits," he said. "Practice," I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with an adjective habit suggested Kai's access came courtesy of private tour. The piece included a photo of sky that could have been any sky and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I carried the plant to the sink and let water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a windy Thursday, Jack sent a single word, weather, and we met him by the parapet where rain negotiates with glass. He showed us which scupper floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions near rail, and how to hear the almost silent pause that means the damper will miss its cue without kindness. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide beneath a building that has decided to forgive, we let the storm remove adjectives we didn't need. Life kept refusing to be purchased. Marcus kept sending commas that wanted homes. Kai kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that turns vanity domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose, because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, near midnight, we walk past the museum and look up. From the street you can't see the hand that hovered like punctuation, or the small, decent posture of a man who teaches heavy air to be gentle. You can only see a disciplined glow pretending not to belong to anyone. That's as it should be. We circle the block and go home without letting the roof perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the rail and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you how to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Marcus paused by a reflection that wouldn't flatter him. Sometimes I think about Jax's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the museum keep its skyline and the city its applause. We have the service lift, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse virtue. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like wind settling into kindness, and a morning we can afford, and calling that enough.